Hey there. I wouldn't call myself a superstitious guy. Sure, I avoid walking under ladders and throw a pinch of salt over my shoulder every now and then, but that's mostly out of habit, a quirk I picked up from my grandma. Real spooky stories, monsters and things that go bump in the night, always seemed like campfire fodder to me. Until last week, that is. Let me tell you about the Backbone Ridge Trail. It's a gem tucked away in the heart of the Appalachians. But my wife and I love it. We're both accountants, you see. Numbers and spreadsheets are our bread and butter. Not exactly the professions known for fostering wild imaginations. But every fall, my wife Sarah and I make a pilgrimage there. It's our tradition, a chance to reconnect with nature and each other before the city swallows us whole again. This year, though, we decided to skip the vibrant foliage and go during the shoulder season, right before everything bursts into bloom. A quick overnight camping trip, a chance to truly disconnect before the daily grind took over. It started out perfectly. Crisp mountain air filled my lungs, the kind that makes you feel like you're inhaling pure life. Leaves crunched underfoot in a comforting symphony, and Bella, our golden retriever, bounced ahead with his usual boundless enthusiasm. She's a goofball, that dog, all wagging tail and slobbery kisses. Every log, every fallen branch was an adventure for her, and she chased butterflies with the unbridled joy of a creature who hasn't a care in the world. As the sun began its descent below the jagged ridge line, casting long, ominous shadows across the trail, things started to feel off, you know. The vibrant chorus of birdsong that had been our constant companion abruptly fell silent. An unsettling hush descended, broken only by the occasional snap of a twig underfoot. Even Bella, usually fearless, whimpered and tucked herself between my legs, his tail tucked low. Sarah, bless her heart, tried to maintain a facade of normalcy, but I saw the worry itched on her brow. We pressed on, the light fading fast. It was then that I saw it, a dilapidated cabin nestled amongst the towering pines, almost swallowed by the encroaching darkness. It looked like something out of a forgotten photograph, windows boarded shut, paint peeling in long, jagged strips that resembled scabs on an old wound. It shouldn't have bothered me. A deserted cabin in the woods wasn't exactly uncommon. But a cold dread, a primal fear I couldn't explain, washed over me. We hadn't seen any signs of a detour, and the well-worn path of the Backbone Ridge Trail clearly led right past it. Curiosity, a morbid fascination I couldn't shake, propelled me forward. Sarah, clearly spooked, stayed behind with Bella a little further down the trail. As I approached the cabin, a low, guttural moan echoed from within. It was an inhuman sound, a raw, wounded cry that sent shivers down my spine. My heart hammered a frantic rhythm against my ribs, but that stupid curiosity kept me rooted to the spot. I pressed my ear against the rough wood of the boarded window, straining to hear anything more. The silence that followed the guttural moan was thick and suffocating. It felt like the cabin itself was holding its breath, waiting. My breath hitched in my throat, and I found myself holding it too, afraid to break the chilling stillness. Minutes bled into what felt like hours. The only movement came from the ever-increasing darkness that seemed to seep from the cabin itself, swallowing the last vestiges of daylight. Finally, I decided I'd had enough. This wasn't some spooky story, this was real, and a cold tendril of fear snaked its way down my spine. I retreated, each step back seemingly louder in the oppressive silence. Relief flooded me as I rejoined Sarah and Bella. We didn't need words. A single glance at her worried face confirmed that she'd heard the sound too. We didn't waste another moment. With a newfound urgency, we practically sprinted down the trail, the fading light barely keeping pace with our growing fear. The designated campsite, usually a haven after a day's hike, felt like a fortress that night. We huddled close to the crackling fire, its warmth a feeble barrier against the bone-deep chill that had settled within me. The sound of the moan echoed in my mind, a constant, unsettling reminder of the darkness we'd encountered. Sleep, when it finally came, was fractured and filled with nightmares. I dreamt of shadowed figures lurking in the woods, their eyes glowing embers in the dark. Morning arrived, pale and unwelcome, but with it came a sliver of hope. Dawn chased away the shadows, and the oppressive feeling of the previous night began to dissipate. Stiff and sore from a restless night, we packed up camp, the events of the previous evening feeling slightly less monstrous in the stark light of day. We continued our hike, the familiar trail a welcome comfort. As we rounded a bend in the path, the first rays of sunlight filtering through the trees, we saw it. The cabin. But this wasn't the same dilapidated structure I'd seen the night before. This cabin gleamed with a coat of fresh paint, the peeling remnants of the previous day a distant memory. Smoke curled invitingly from the chimney, and a warm light emanated from the windows. My heart hammered a frantic tattoo against my ribs. This was impossible. How could this be? My legs turned to lead, refusing to move. Sarah squeezed my hand, her own eyes wide with disbelief. We stared, frozen in place, as the cabin door creaked open. A figure emerged, tall and shrouded in shadow, holding a lantern that cast an eerie glow on the path. The silence stretched, heavy and oppressive. We didn't dare move, didn't dare breathe. Every instinct screamed at us to run, to put as much distance between us and that horrifying place as possible. But a strange paralysis gripped us, our bodies frozen in a state of horrified fascination. The figure tilted its head, a gesture that felt impossibly alien, and took a single step towards us. That was all it took. The dam broke. A primal scream ripped from my throat, a raw, desperate sound that echoed through the silent woods. Finally, Sarah broke the spell. With a strangled gasp, she lurched forward, pulling me along with her. We didn't dare look back. The image of that shadowy figure burned into my mind. We ran, adrenaline pumping through our veins, until our lungs burned and our legs threatened to give out. We didn't stop until we were well clear of the Backbone Ridge Trail, collapsing in a heap at the nearest ranger station. The rangers, bless their hearts, were kind but skeptical. But here's the thing that keeps me up at night. On the park ranger's map, at the exact location of the cabin, there's nothing marked. No abandoned buildings, no historical sites, nothing. So yeah, that's my story. I've decided to share it because maybe someone out there knows something about that place. Or maybe, just maybe, it's a reminder to always stick to the trail. You never know what lurks in the heart of those mountains.